Hello, KWRA. We have an exciting topic for you today. Everybody has been inundated with multiple offers, and our leadership team has equally been inundated with lots of questions. So we're here to talk with you today about that very topic. And I have four experts that will be very informative for you, and you can see them all: Dawn, Debbie, Gary, and Jessica. Welcome. And Gary, I'm going to let you open up with reading paragraph 19 that sets up the stage.
Yes, this set the stage for what possibly can come in a contract negotiation when we are doing the listing. Paragraph 19 talks about disclosure of offers, and the seller and the realtor agree that the realtor is his response to inquiries from buyers or cooperating brokers shall only, with the seller's approval, disclose the existence of an offer on the property. When disclosure is authorized, realtors shall also disclose, if asked, whether the offers were obtained by the listing licensee or another licensee in the listing firm or by a cooperating broker. So what we're doing here is we're setting up the conversation on how do we want to handle multiple offers when we're actually doing the listing. Does the seller want to receive or disclose that there are other offers out there, or does he not want to disclose? And then that sets the tenor for how we go from that point on with regard to multiple offers.
And so that is, I want to reiterate because I don't know that I was clear up front, that is paragraph 19 in the listing agreement. And then there are two different places for them to have to check that gives the seller the different options, right?
There are two boxes, one box that the seller does authorize and one box the seller does not authorize the realtor to disclose the existence of offers.
So it is really, really important, if I'm hearing you properly, that at time of listing, when they reach the listing agreement, which I know everybody does, when you get to paragraph 19, you are being very clear with the seller, because this is a market we're going to be in for a while. It's going to be a long time, I believe, before we're not dealing with multiple offers. You have to have a really strong conversation. That's what you're saying, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right. So where do y'all want to go from here in helping these folks know how to navigate these waters?
Well, we've talked about it a lot, us as a group, and I've talked about it a lot with agents, new and experienced, that the negotiations are between the buyer and the seller, not the listing agent and the buyer's agent. And it's not something we've fallen into doing. It's something that's been done for as long as I can remember. Everybody enters into these things and they start fighting, they not fighting, but they have disagreements with the other side. And then it all comes out when something goes wrong, then they get the brokers involved. It all comes out. Neither one of them, or one of them, especially, they're not talking to the buyer and the seller for direction. And the way the rules and regs read is, as long as they're not telling you to do something illegal, you're supposed to do everything that your client tells you to do.
And the listing agreement, paragraph 19, gives that listing agent their direction, right?
Right, but you still should have a conversation, especially when you're in a multiple offer situation. You should be talking to your client constantly for direction. Everybody,
both sides.
Yeah.
Both sides.
Yes, both sides.
Both sides. Yeah. The buyer's agent should be talking to the buyers, and the listing agent should be talking to the sellers. I would like, to that point, Dawn, to read, because this needs to be discussed at the listing presentation and it needs to be discussed during the buyer consultation. And this is right out of NAR's Buyer and Seller Guide to Negotiating Multiple Offers. And I'd like to read the four options that the buyer has and the seller has. It says sellers, in some situations, sellers will have several competing offers to consider. Sellers have several ways to deal with multiple offers. Sellers can, number one, accept the best offer. Number two, they can inform all potential purchasers, back to Gary's paragraph 19, agreement, paragraph 19. They can inform all potential purchasers that other offers are on the table. Number 3, they can counter one offer while putting the other offers to the side, awaiting a decision on the counter offer. And number 4, they can counter only one offer and reject the others. They may choose to counter only one offer and reject the others. That conversation with buyers and with sellers, depending on with sellers what they decided in that paragraph 19 of the listing agreement, that conversation has to be had up before you actually get into the situation.
Agreed.
So I have a question. What happens, or what is the protocol if a person has, and I don't think I'm being unrealistic here, so they have one agent call and say, I'm bringing you an offer, and in the next, and maybe their seller says, I'll meet you after work at 5:30, and between that time, they get 4 more offers. What's the protocol there?
Well, a lot of times that one that proffered the first offer and then something goes wrong and they take number 3, they'll say, you did everything very wrong because I was the first offer and I should have the first, chance to make this offer work. And that's not, it's all the seller's choice. If the seller wants to negotiate number 3, he can negotiate. But there's always this argument between agents about, I was first.
So at that point, the listing agent should have communicated to all parties that there was existence of other offers.
You didn't have to. That's a courtesy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a code of ethics violation not to, but your seller may want you to.
Yeah, and it'll make it easier.
Yeah, say,
Yeah.
listen, tell everybody that there's another offer out there, other offers out there that I'm considering. And if he gives you that authority, then you can do it. But you can, if he doesn't want you to tell him, you take those offers when they come in, you don't say anything to anybody, you present them to the seller, and the seller makes their determination of which one they want to do. The NARS thing that Debbie read says the seller can take the best offer. Well, that needs to be interpreted that the best offer that the seller wants to take, he still
That's right.
determines what's the best offer.
Mhm.
It
He's the
doesn't
boss.
necessarily mean it's the most money. This could be the best offer, and he's the one that makes that decision. So again, the seller is calling the shots here on what we do. If we want to do courtesy calls on behalf of the seller saying, hey, I want to call all these other agents, say, I've got 4 offers here that I'm going to present. Do you want to sweeten your pot at all? That could chase off as many buyers as it could entice to bring you a better deal.
And
So
you need
like
to
I say,
tell your seller that too.
that's exactly right. That's why the seller is key to this whole thing on how we want to proceed with multiple offers.
So what I'm hearing is you have the conversation up front with the listing agreement, and then as they come in, you're going back to that and saying, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, remember how we talked about this at time of listing? Well, we're now in this situation. How would you like us to proceed?
Absolutely.
That's ideal.
So, Debbie, go back over the 4 options.
Okay. The seller can, this is the language, the seller can accept the best offer, and it's in quotes, to Gary's point, that it's the seller's decision what is his best offer. It's not the first offer. It may not be the highest price. It may be the highest net, or it may be the most favorable close date, or it may be, I don't want to do a USDA loan, but I will do an FHA loan. All of those factors go into the decision by the seller as to what he considers the best offer. So that's option number 1. Number 2, they can inform all potential purchasers that other offers are on the table. Number 3, they can counter one offer and put all the other offers to the side while awaiting a decision on that one counter that they sent out there. Or they can counter one offer and reject all the others. In other words, send out a rejection. We took an offer and we're not going to take yours.
So to Jessica's point, that would be those 4 options. That dialogue would be excellent to be for the listing agent to be having in saying, we talked about this at time of listing. Well, we're in this scenario. Let's go back and talk about these are your 4 options and decide how you want that to look.
Yep.
So this is great information. I have another question. So let's say we have 4 offers on the table. Seller chooses one. Others are off to the side. We are now in day 2. Seller and buyer are still, he chooses one, but they still are negotiating. And so when he chooses that one, in order for it to be a solid choice, it has to be a contract. It has to be done. Is that right? Before everybody goes to the side? It's done. So it's a contract. So no, for the second day, another offer could not come in and monkey with that.
If he's accepted the
Not what
first
I heard.
offer and we have written acceptance, so we have a contract that is in existence,
Then
and
it's
another offer coming in a day or 2 later is of no concern.
okay. And they don't need to be telling them about it.
No.
Okay. Let's see. I want to bring to this point. Everybody has talked. I'm talking to all of you out in the audience. All of these people, these experts you are hearing, are telling us, and I think this is really interesting. You know, that this is happening a lot, and our new agents have no problem. They come immediately and go, "Oh my goodness, I have no idea what to do here," and so then we're able to help them navigate forward. What we're finding is with our experienced agents and agents that have been in the business a long time, I'm hoping this is a great review time for you and maybe some new information, because what we're finding in conversation is that some of you are operating, and we call it back in the day. And it's a different day and time now. And you want to know this because your co-brokes, you could have co-brokes you're working with that are operating back in the day, and we don't want you to feel insecure about that. We want you to know exactly how it works and feel confident in that. This is how it's done today. This is the protocol, if you will. Is that right, everybody? Do you agree with that?
Yes. And I'm going to go back more than a decade. When we had so many foreclosures during the last shift, and the REOs, the financial institutions that owned the properties had these elaborate addenda that they sent out to agents that used the language, "Give us your highest and best offer." And they would say how that was going to be handled. And if you don't give it to us by such and such a date, and at such and such a time, we're going to take that offer, and blah, blah, blah. And we don't have that anymore. And when we are coaching our buyers, when we're working with buyers and coaching them, absolutely from the get-go, in relationship to the market we're in, I think we do have to coach them. You're looking at the potential of a multiple offer on this situation. You need to put your best foot forward to start with. And that's the kind of language. But telling 5 agents, "Go and give us your highest and best offer and we'll take the best one," is looking for chaos, and it's for hurt feelings, and it's looking for a lot of anger and confusion. And that's why we're going over the 4 things that NAR recommends. And that involves communication, telling the buyer's agents who brought you offers, this is what the seller has selected to do. Not this is what I'm going to do. This is what the seller has chosen to do with his property and with these offers that are on the table. And pick one of the 4. And he certainly can take the best offer, but sending 6 people back out or 5 people back out or 11 people back out and say, bring us your highest and best without any guidelines is just looking for trouble. You're just asking for a problem.
What does highest best mean to everybody sitting here? Because highest and best to me kind of means you bring me your highest and best. If we accept it, it's over with. When I think when you do that to 4 or 5 offers, you're just telling them if the seller picks you, then you're going to negotiate with the seller. The highest and best doesn't mean it's over with at that point. And a lot of people think that.
And you know what? With REOs, that's exactly what they were doing. They were negotiating with the REO company.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think if you get a highest and best, put out that cry and you get 4 or 5 of those back, you still have the right to negotiate with whichever one, even though they said that was the highest and best, you may try to get more out of it if the seller wants to.
Yep.
So it's still
It's
a
kind of
seller's decision. I think
It's
the biggest,
kind of the wrong.
absolutely.
It's kind of the wrong thing to say. I think you ought to say,
Exactly.
do you want to adjust your offer? I think that would be safer.
Right. I think we get a lot of pushback from the other agents that we're dealing with telling us that we did it wrong. This is not how I would have done it. That's unethical. You should have done this. I should have done that. Quite frankly, they don't have any great insight. A lot of them are dealing with how it used to be in the past or how they think the real estate business ought to be, not necessarily what the guidelines are that are in writing. And as long as we can tell people that we are, if it's our listing, that we are operating with the seller's direction and the seller's input, and this is how he wants to negotiate this contract, it's going to keep us out of trouble. It may not please the other agents, but that's not our business. Our business is to look out for our buyers and our sellers.
Well, and to everyone's point, on the flip side of this, we're talking about the seller, but I think it's equally as important to educate your buyer on the process that may occur when you put in your offer. It's kind of what Amberly Bell was talking about when she's showing properties. It's what Jen Sanders alluded to when she's going over a buyer consultation. These NAR points for rules and guidance on multiple offers are just as important to educate your buyers on in the process, instead of just going, okay, we'll put it out there and see what happens type of thing. You know, you need to be prepared, especially if they really want the property.
Yeah, to that point, and I think Debbie was talking about, I'd like to spend a little time talking specifically about consultation with buyers on this, about the kind of market that they're in. So dig a little deeper, you guys, on what you feel like in buyer consultation, not waiting until they want to make an offer on a house and then finding out, oh, here it is. So talk a little bit about that.
I think you have to be real. I think that you have to know your numbers. You have to know, if you're talking to a buyer, you have to know that the houses that in the area that they're looking at, the price range and the amenities are coming in at 98.5% of the list price. So we need to know that when we're making our offers, and if we want to get an offer that is to be seriously considered. There are going to be those that want to lowball everything, and that's just life. They're out there. But somebody who is needing a house, who is needing to move in, needs to have a realistic expectation of what it's going to take to actually purchase that house. And that's us knowing our numbers and consulting them and providing that information so that they know that it's real. It used to be trial and error. We kept lowballing until we learned the lesson, and then we got serious and made a good offer. We don't have that much inventory now to be playing that game. We need to know right up front, what is it going to take to get this house, and guide the buyers in that direction so that you make that decision.
So,
Go ahead.
are there still as many investors out there as there were, and how did they handle these multiple offer situations? How do buyers deal with them?
I think investors, I mean, this is just my take on it, but I think investors specifically know what they want and what they want to pay for a property. And unless they really just think it's a great deal, if it's, great property to put an investment in on, I don't think they're going to be really competitive on it, because they go more of, this is my, there's I'm looking for a word, there's a calculation on how, if they want to go through with it. Because if it doesn't meet their criteria, then they've done investments enough to know, I can't do that. That price isn't going to work with what I want to do with this property. That's just my take.
Yeah, I just think it's not an emotional decision for an investor. He's got his calculations. If it falls within the parameters of what he wants to do, it's fine. And if it doesn't, he's not going to lose any sleep if he doesn't get the property because it didn't meet his criteria.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just like the bank and corporate owned properties. They certainly don't have any emotion about it. And sometimes they go into it, and most of the time, the listing agent will know, I'm just going to put a scenario out there. They'll say, I don't want to negotiate anything until I have, they'll say 9 offers. I don't care if it takes 2 weeks to get those 9 offers or 2 months, but I want 9 offers on the table before we look at them. And then the buyers, they start getting all upset because, nothing's happening. And I think you get the permission from the bank or the corporation, and maybe you could tell them he's not going to do anything until he has a lot more offers on the table. And I think that causes a lot of angst among buyers.
Is that going on a lot?
Go ahead, Don, go.
No, I was just.
I was asking if what Don just showed, what Don just said was a scenario. Is that happening a lot?
I think it is.
Where bank-owned properties are asking for multiple offers. They're not going to look at the fine. They're not going to make a decision until they have however many they want on the table.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's always been the way with bank-owned.
I guess
I think,
are
go
there
ahead.
any bank-owned properties out there right now?
Not.
Well, I dealt with some the last 2 weeks, maybe 2 or 3. They're still out there.
Well, and it's probably going to increase over time based on what's happening here. But that's interesting. I didn't realize they gave a finite number. Like, we'll take your offer, but it's going to sit here until we've got 10 more offers, and then we'll look at all. That may be.
Well, it doesn't hurt the agent to ask. They might not tell him, but they might give him an indication.
Yeah, and then that does give a buyer a choice of, do you want to mess with this or do you want to?
Yeah.
I
I think I've seen a lot of those type of properties. They have the guidance in MLS with broker remarks. They say all offers will not be presented until this time. And some of them that I've seen will say, even just depending on the type of property it is, that, for so many days, they'll only take offers from these type of people. And like investors can't make offers until, 21 days later. And so that information, I talk to agents a lot about, check MLS. MLS has a lot of information for you to know and to guide your buyers on how you're going to write up an offer or what is involved in that type of property. Disclosures are the same way, but all of that is in MLS most of the time, and that you can help your buyers decide, do you want to play this waiting game? It may be 2 weeks until they make a decision. Are you okay with that?
I guess one of the things I'm saying too is in this situation, silence is not golden.
Mm-mm.
You need to have as much information as you can get, and you tell the buyer's agent, and then you're not going to have this great big fight 2 weeks down the line, because I told you that they're going to have multiple offers before they'll consider, or they told me they have to have 9. They might give you the number. So if the other side has that information, they're not going to come back at you and tell you, what a crook you are because you're doing what the seller wants.
So if I were to ask you what is the number one question you're asked about multiple offers, what is it?
What do I do?
That's simple, huh?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Anybody else?
I think that's basically they're looking for guidance on that first step. That it's a panic situation arises for them, and they're saying, "Oh my gosh, this is the first time I've ever done this," or "It's been so long since I've done this. What do I do to make sure that I'm doing it right?" And what you do
Yeah.
is present to the seller, let them make the decision, and make sure that the seller understands the concepts that we're trying to accomplish here.
So,
If-
go ahead, Deb.
Well, if it is the first time that an agent has faced multiple offers as a listing agent, the question is how do I present these? And I always say think in terms of, you don't have to do one, but think in terms of an Excel spreadsheet. What's the price? What are the closing costs that are being asked for? What's the close date? Who's the lender? And I have them go through the negotiating points of each one and lay them out on paper so that they can present to the seller, because the seller's looking at 4 or 5, if you have that many, 6-page contracts. And they're looking to the agent to give them guidance as to what's in each one of those so they can make a good decision. And if you'll take it apart so that you can present it, then the seller can ask questions and make a good decision. Not just price. It's not just price.
What are other key areas that the listing agent should be presenting on the contract to the seller?
Well, I hope they're doing a net to seller with each one of them.
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because that's going to have some of those key areas on there.
I think you start, you do that, of course, but I think you start at the very beginning of the contract with, here's what they're offering, here's the earnest money, look at this with me. You look at it the same time I'm talking about it, and here's the closing date. We haven't brought that up, but the closing date could be a big deal.
It is.
It is.
And then go,
About what are those deals? Sorry, Don, finish and then we'll.
what or what?
What are those? So you've said closing date. Debbie said it's not always about price. What are the different things that a seller should consider before making?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Just go down the contract, paragraph by paragraph, page by page, and all the answers are right there.
So
What's
you've
been
got,
put in the blanks, what they're asking, most of the time they're asking for closing costs, and make all that clear. And is it a local lender or is it an internet lender? That comes into play too. Just
And what kind of loan? And how
Yeah.
old is, how now we have to look at how old is the pre-qualification letter?
Yeah.
Not just is it a local lender or not, but how old is the letter?
Yeah, exactly. But if you go down that contract page by page, you're going to answer all their questions right there.
so what Debbie has stressed, and I want to stress it again, you've got 4 offers. Seller wants to see them all at the same time. You don't wait until you get there to really study those offers. You study those offers before you get there and go line by line by line through each of those contracts and highlight. Would you suggest, Debbie, highlighting the points they need specifically to look at, so that at the end of the day, when they're finished reviewing those, the sellers, they're able to make a really informed decision. And by the way, you as the listing agent really look like a professional because you did your homework before you got there and you're not floundering around trying to figure out who's on first. So
Right.
I love that. I think that is tremendous. Great
And
advice.
if you're as good an agent as you say you are, you're going to know the hot spots for that seller. like you should know for all of your sellers. You're going to say, I know how much earnest money. I know that's a big thing to you. So look here, this was giving you $2,000 earnest money. This was giving you $500. You know, if he likes this other contract better, then he can ask them for more earnest money, because that's a big deal to me.
So when you're having a conversation at time of listing about this multiple offer market that we live in, would you visit with them at that time about, now if and when we do get in these multiple offer situations, what I want you to be really clear on is it's just not about the price, and these are the different areas that we're going to look at. And so you don't need to spend a lot of time on it because you'll do it in presenting the offer. But don't you think that would be a good conversation to tie in with multiple offers at time of listing?
Absolutely.
Good for the agent too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it really is. So another thing I'm hearing here is there is no way in a multiple offer situation that you can deal with this, and I'm going to say it, ethically, not having a conversation with yourself. You are
Yeah,
Right.
that's the number one thing you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
So this can't be, I'm going to send you all of these through Dotloop and you look at them and then we'll talk about them. You've got to have deep conversations. Am I right?
Yes.
Can I be
Absolutely.
negative?
What?
Can I be negative? Because what you just said, here are 4 offers. Let me know what you like. That's what goes on a lot.
I know that. I do know that. So
And
you can't do that. That is a big no-no.
And even though we are right now doing everything digitally, I mean, we have to on most of these things. I mean, it's okay to send things digitally, but just like Debbie said, I love the spreadsheet idea, because you can really go over and say, okay, you see contract number 1, I've sent you a net seller with it, but here are the other terms of the contract, and here's where it really lines out and compares all the different contracts. And those are the conversations, even if you send it digitally, that you should be picking those apart with your sellers, even if it's over the phone or over Zoom or whatever it is that you want to do.
And Jess, one of the reasons that is so important for the listing agent to go over every contract like that, what if you miss one detail?
Mm-hmm.
What if $6,000 closing costs are embedded in the FHA right up under the paragraph that says there's $100 not allowable?
Mm-hmm.
I'd send $6,000 to be paid towards closing and prepaids, and you miss that. And your seller says, okay, I'm going to take this offer. This is the best one. There's a $6,000 closing cost request in the financial supplemental. So it behooves us as listing. Did I strike a nerve, Dawn?
Yeah.
We got to do this to make sure we don't miss any details. They're trusting us to do it. I can't say it a better way. They're trusting us to do it. I
Well,
say this all the time. That's what you get the big bucks for.
yeah, and what you're saying happens every day. I think Gary will agree. And that's back to what I said about take the contract. They have it. If you're talking to them like we are here, or they're across the table, both of you should have a copy of it, the contract that you're talking about. And then you go through it line by line, paragraph by paragraph, and then you're not going to miss those things, because those things are missed all the time. But if you're going through it line by line, you're not going to miss the $6,000, because you're going to come right to it.
We had a situation where an agent doing a net to seller forgot to put in the commission. And that was a lesson that was hard to learn, but I guarantee you she never forgot it again from that day forward. So
Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah, that's terrible.
That is terrible. Well, okay. Any last words before we wrap this up?
I just have one that just happened yesterday, and I was so proud of first of all, the way the agent handled it. But this is a conversation you don't get privy to a lot. The buyer was a single young man, had saved money for his down payment and part of his closing cost, and they were negotiating the contract, writing the contract, and found out they were in a multiple offer situation. And he offered X number of dollars above list price because he did not want to lose this house. And so it was a real clean offer, and he got the house. His contract was accepted, and his dad came to see the house, and his dad said to his son, I know that you are concerned about paying more than list price for this house. He said, but I want to tell you something. He said, your agent told you correctly when they said to you, we are in a market where that may be the case. Was this a deal for you, son? Maybe not, but you got the house you wanted in the market you're in. And I think to have a dad
Wow.
or anybody and validate that the son had been told correctly and help him not feel bad about paying more than list price. And that's good language. You may in this market pay more than you really want to, and it may not be a great deal, but if you want the house, that's what you're going to have to do.
Correct. That is.
That brings up something we haven't touched on yet is the appraisal.
Yeah.
You got to be careful. Do your comps, do your absorption rate, and make sure that you're not getting into the dangerous waters here. You're not getting up there where it's going to go over the contract price, because it's happening every day.
Well, that was one thing that I was thinking when you say it's not all about price. That's something that you almost have to keep reiterating to sellers, because when you present these offers that are 5, 7, maybe even 10,000 over list price, you have to kind of bring them back down to, okay, so here's the thing, but just know that when appraisal happens, this may not appraise for this price, and we'll have to adjust it. And here's what we could, here are the options that happen at that point. But you have to be versed on those options and talk with them about it then, because I know most sellers are going to say, well, I want the highest price, of course, but there may be closing costs in that contract. And, if the price is brought back down, are you still going to net more than you would have if you picked one of these other ones that is not the highest price? I don't know.
If you don't do what Jessica just said, when everything goes wrong with the appraisal, they're going to come back and blame you. They always blame the agent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
And then if that was in a multiple offer situation, you've lost all those other offers, and
Yep.
this buyer walk because he doesn't want to play the game of under appraised value.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if there's nothing final, I would like for us to go ahead and wrap up, and I sort of want to summarize, and you all may want to throw a couple of things into my summary before we say goodbye. Is there any last words before I summarize?
The only thing I want to say is Article 3, we touched on it in the beginning, and I want to do it again, says that we're called to cooperate with other realtors, and that means communication. It just means we have to communicate in a multiple offer situation with the agents that brought offers to you. We have to. We
do have to, and we have to communicate with our sellers and our buyers. So it's just, we've got to, that's such a fine line there, because so often, and that was one of the things I was going to summarize is reiterate, this is between the sellers and the buyer. It is not, nobody cares what your opinion is. We want you going and working with your buyers and sellers and presenting to them. So in summary, listing agreement, paragraph 19, it sets out what the protocol is and what the obligation is. Debbie read 4 options to you that come straight from NAR's guide on negotiating multiple offers. for buyers and sellers. So 4 options, and we're going to post this on YouTube so you'll be able to go back and get those. So very clear, concise information. Paragraph 19 sets the obligation. NAR's guide gives you the 4 options that the seller has. It's between the buyers and the sellers. It is not between you and the cooperating agent. Those of you that are new agents, continue to call us and ask questions. Congratulations. We're glad you're doing that. You're doing a good job. And those of you who are experienced and have been in the business a while, there is nothing wrong with not quite remembering how you did this when we were in a big multiple offer market before. It's unwieldy. There are a lot of moving parts, and that's what these people are here to help you with. Let's see. I think that is all I have in the summary. Did I miss anything?
Nope.
So communication with your sellers, your buyers, and proper communication with your cooperating brokers that you're working with. Thank you. We hope this has been helpful. We will be putting this on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to go back and watch it. We love you. We miss you. Blow them kisses, everybody. Mwah. Don Beach.
Love you guys.
I was going to do an air hug.
He likes the airheads.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Right. I said goodbye.
Oh, it's not letting me stop. I think T is the host on this and I can't. So I'm just going to leave and we're hopefully not messing this whole thing up. Or you have to do it all over again. Goodbye.
Hey, Gina. Oh. It wasn't taking me off.
Huh?
It wasn't taking me off. Did you do it?
Yep.
Did you do it correctly or incorrectly?
I don't see you anymore.
Is that heavy?
Uh-uh.
Oh,
A little bit. It is a little heavy.
okay.
I'm just that weak.
No, you're my hero.
You are my hero. Do you want this open or closed, sir?
Open.
Okay.